Nokia has announced the unibody polycarbonate N9, powered by the tablet-like MeeGo OS we all thought was fading away. It has a 3.9-inch WVGA touchscreen, pentaband 3G, near-field communications, and the other usual top specs, including up to 64 gigabytes of internal memory and an autofocus 8-megapixel camera with Carl Zeiss optics. Innovatively, the UI features 3 home views: events, applications, and open apps, with the primary control being a single swipe gesture. The N9 is Qt compatible and will ship with a range of services and applications, including Nokia Maps, an HTML5 compatible web browser, Skype, Twitter, and Facebook integration. Availability and pricing hasn't been announced yet, though, so don't get too excited. Well, what do you know? The Sony Ericsson Xperia Arc just got a baby sister, the Xperia Ray. It's an Android 2.3, 3.3-inch screened tablet smartphone with the same 8-megapixel Exmor camera and the, quote, reality display. The physical design here uses metal, very unusual for Sony Ericsson these days, and is designed to be slim in both width and depth. And with a 1500 mAh battery, it should easily get through a day or two of moderate use. Steve Jobs has a lot to answer for, you know. Yes, he championed finger control of our phones, capacitive screens, wonderfully polished software, and the rise and rise of apps and app stores. But he also got at least part of the phone world thinking that it's okay to have batteries that aren't accessible by the end user. Now, this is going to sound like a rant, but in my experience, it's just about vital to have access to your phone's battery. You can pull it and reinsert it if something goes horribly wrong. You can swap it out with a spare if you run out of power during an important trip. You can change it altogether after 6 months when it's not holding its charge like it once did, and so on. With the iPhone designs and now with copycat designs like this Nokia X7, we have styling and smooth metal at the expense of practicality. At least with the iPhone, we had custom batteries that, yes, probably did need skilled technicians to change. But the X7 has a bog standard Nokia BL5K cell. Look, I've got one here. You just can't get to it at all, even with a Torx screwdriver like on my N8. Very frustrating. Breathe. So this is the Nokia X7, the closest thing Nokia has got to the 4-inch screened Android tablets like the Galaxy S. And it's not all bad. Symbian has received a big feature bump with the new Anna software, including a new web browser, multiple windows, a dottle now, and faster rendering, portrait QWERTY input as well as T9 style input, smoother home screen swiping, and an upgraded calendar. All good stuff, and this will arrive on existing Symbian devices shortly, we're told. We've also got some futuristic styling, or at least what would have passed for futuristic 30 years ago. I'm just not sold on these large fake grills in each corner. Now, if each had housed a powerful speaker, a quadraphonic sound, there would have been some justification. Sadly, although there are 2 speakers here at the bottom, they're mounted internally at right angles to the bottom grills. There's not much sound output actually coming out through the obvious apertures. The X7 still makes a bit of a racket though. Have a listen to this. And in this regard, it is a successor to the pretty decent and also capacitive screened Nokia X6. Moving around the phone, we have a 4-inch AMOLED screen that's higher contrast than the N8s, but nowhere near as good as the clear black display in the E7 being used to shoot this. Still, it's easily good enough contrast and colours for most users. My only complaint would be that a 360 by 640 pixel display is, well, just looking a tiny bit blocky on such a large screen. The camera's EDOF, extended depth of field. Cue my rant about the technology being better than most people think it is, and my other rant about personally preferring autofocus. I'm schizophrenic. And 8 megapixels, here are some sample photos. This is a video sample indoors in very rainy, overcast UK on the Nokia X7. Picture quality is pretty excellent, though the sound quality is a bit crisper. I'm not sure there's the full same digital microphone as on the N8 and E7. The X7's back is super smooth and stainless steel with flush angled buttons here for volume and camera. Perfect for forcing the phone out of your hand when you're trying to use it and guaranteeing you drop the phone on the ground every time. The SIM card and micro SD card are retained in caddies, which you access by pushing in the flaps and then carefully pulling them out by the flap edges. It's all a bit over-engineered though, if I'm totally honest. Missing from the X7 are a few really obvious Symbian standard functions. There's no key lock toggle here, so unlocking the screen is always a 2-step operation. You press home and then unlock, or power then unlock. Just like iPhone and Android OS, I guess, but unlocking Symbian phones with one key press has been something I've loved for years now. Also missing is a front-facing camera up here at top. There's nothing. A shame when video calling over data is just taking off in other smartphone worlds. And the N8's FM transmitter would have been super to include here on such a music-focused phone. That's a lot of negatives for something so new. I should say that if you love Symbian and were longing for something that's E7 size but thinner and without the keyboard, then the X7 will fit the bill nicely. And after all, the E7 had the integral battery too. But at its launch price of £400, the X7 is way overpriced for what it is. It's significantly under-spec compared to the N8, which you can now buy for just over £300. If you can live with a screen that's just half an inch smaller, then the N8 is surely the way to go. Put the X7 out at £250 and Nokia would have got a surprise music and fashion hit on their hands. As it is, I'm afraid the X7 is a tough sell. For only a few quid more, you can get a Samsung Galaxy S2 for goodness sake, which is way more of a smartphone. But the X7, you make up your mind about it. Comments welcome.
In Phone Show 141, Steve talked about text input into phones, and before then I'd already had my big fallout with touch keyboards. It seems BlackBerry and Nokia still like buttons on the front of their phones, but Apple and most Android manufacturers clearly don't. If you want an Android phone with a front-facing keyboard in the UK, you've got either the Acer B-Touch E210, the Samsung Galaxy Pro, or the HTC ChaCha I just released. Now most of these are pretty low to mid-end phones at best, pretty poor specs, some poor build qualities there, which is why I've ended up with one of these. This is the Motorola Droid Pro, and I bought it in from the US. So it's sold there by Verizon, primarily a CDMA phone, but it's what they call a global phone. So it has a SIM card slot and all the relevant frequencies for 3G and GSM in the UK. So if you can get hold of a handset, you can run one of these on any of our networks. So the build quality is pretty nice, it doesn't creak or anything. The back cover's a plastic peel off effort, but it doesn't bother me because I don't take it off that often. The keyboard's pretty nice. Each key's got a little ridge on it, which makes the typing quite a nice experience. The screen is 3.1 inches. Now that sounds quite small compared to a lot of people bringing out 4.3 inch screens at the moment, but it's clearly a design trade-off to fit the keyboard in, which is obviously fine by me. There's a button on the side which is assignable to any app you like. BlackBerry users will recognise this. I've got it set to the camera and I also use it as the camera shutter button. Curiously, around the micro USB port there's a light which is active while charging, which might be good for nighttime charging next to your bed. There's a normal 3.5mm jack on the top and also your power button. Android on board is gingerbread, we're up to 2.3.3, and yes, you do get over-the-air updates even outside the US, which is quite nice. The Moto Blue on the Droid Pro is actually the light version, so it doesn't even ask you to sign into a Moto Blue account. All you really get is their widgets on the front screen. Their launcher's not too bad, and of course it could be bypassed by the launcher of your choice. One thing they have put in which is nice is the ability to selectively dismiss notifications from the drop down menu as opposed to clear them all in one go, which is quite a nice addition. You get 3 profiles with Motorola's launcher, so they're called Work, Weekend and Home, and each has 7 home screens. Personally I find I only use one anyway. The camera's not bad. It's obviously not going to stack up to things like the Nokia N8, but it's 5 megapixels, dual LED flash, and takes some average photos. Video capture is at 480p DVD resolution. The loudspeaker I found quite quiet. Now it's on the bottom and there's a small little lip here, so that if you've got the phone placed on a surface it should let the sound out. However, in practice I don't think it really works, and it's still very quiet and muffled sound. So to be honest, as you haven't got much choice in this area for front-facing Android phones, I'd certainly recommend the Droid Pro if you can get your hands on one. Even the upcoming Barcelona from Orange doesn't seem like it's going to improve this form factor choice in this country. So there you have it, Motorola Droid Pro.
As you can see, it is at last a different form factor for an Android device. And as you can also see, it's not bad in some ways. The keyboard is pretty good. It's got nice spaced out keys, really quite nice to hit, and to some degree better than the Nokia E71 keys. The screen is small, it's tiny, I think, to be honest with you, it's saved by having HTC Sense UI on it. But as you can see, if I swipe it left and right, you can make up to 7 screens for yourself. And when you go into an application like Mail, you can see why it's fiddly. It's very, very small to negotiate around, and you can't see much of the screen. If you've never had an HTC Sense UI device before, or even if you've never had an Android device before, then this could be just for you. If you're a teenager and you want to do lots of texting, this stuff is in at the moment, then this could be the thing for you as well. But the killer feature here is this button here, which is the Facebook button, which means that in whatever application you're in, you can press this button and it will send off whatever you're looking at as a recommendation to your Facebook page. So it's really for teenagers. I started off hating it, but actually I've grown to like it a bit. The HTC ChaCha.